Okay, good evening, everybody. Welcome to the August 25th, 2020 regular meeting of the Cobb Board of Commissioners. And tonight we're blessed and honored to have Imam Amjad Tawfiq from the West Cobb Islamic Center lead us in opening prayer, and then District Chief Scott White from the Fire Department lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So those that are willing and able, please stand.
God Almighty, guide us among those whom you have guided right, and preserve us among those who you have preserved. Take us for friends among those whom you have befriended. Bless us in that which you have bestowed upon us. Guard us from the evil of that which you have allowed. For it is you who ordains, and none can anything against you. And never is he abused whom you have befriended. God Almighty, we come to you asking to bless our world with peace. Help us find peace, truth, and well-being in the world. Peace and security between the nations, tribes, and races. Peace and sincerity in our hearts and minds. God Almighty, lead us from the dead to life, from falsehood to truth, from despair to hope, from fear to trust, from hate to love, from war to peace. And let peace fill our hearts, our world, our souls, and our humanity. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Imam. Thank you, Chief. I'd also like all of us to join us, please, in a moment of silence for Roger Wilson, who unfortunately left this earthly kingdom on August 22nd. Roger served on the Civil Service Board for more than 15 years and was chair for several terms, a true public servant. So I'd ask you to join me in a moment of silence for Roger and his family. And may a flight of angels guide him to his rest. Okay, we have three proclamations tonight, and I think I get to do the honors for all of them. The first one tonight is for Life University. So if you'd please come on up here, please. Gilles, good to see you. Here. I'm going to present a proclamation designating the month of September 2020 as Life University Founders Month of Giving for Research. And I'll let you introduce everybody here after the proclamation, okay? Dr. Lamar? Thank you, sir. Life University Founders Month of Giving in support of chiropractic research is a global campaign to increase public awareness of the benefits and progress of chiropractic research and care. And whereas, during the month of September, in honor of the 125th anniversary of the founding of chiropractic, Life University unites the efforts of faculty, staff, alumni, friends, community, and corporate leaders, along with government officials, chiropractic professionals, service organizations, professional associations, and affiliates, and institutions from around the world in a month-long celebration of chiropractic research. And whereas numerous people in the state of Georgia and beyond afflicted with disease and dysfunction of the spine and nervous system are helped by the tremendous breakthroughs in neuroscience and chiropractic research, coupled with the dedication of wellness and vitalistic healthcare professionals. And whereas we commend the thousands of chiropractic professionals globally who are at the forefront of their profession to understand the complexities of chiropractic research toward healing society's ills and one adjustment at a time now. Therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby recognize the month of September as Life University Founders Month of Giving for research on the 125th anniversary of chiropractic, presented this 25th day of August 2020, signed by all members of the Board of Commissioners. Congratulations, Dr. Marsh.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I'm Dr. Jill Lamarche, Vice President of University Advancement at Life University, and joining me this evening is our Senior Development Officer, Ms. Angela Getter. On behalf of everyone at Life University, thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the Board of Commissioners for this proclamation.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Mike.
Hold on, hold on.
The official. Those were all unofficial.
It's not official, this is a photo. Hold on. Who's got the secret code to get into the building?
Makeup snacks.
Plus, it has for the wellness center too.
Exactly.
Get over there.
Yes. All right, here we go. In 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
Congratulations, both to bed.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. I want to get all 576 people from Cobb Link up here. If you're here for the proclamation for First Transit and Cobb Link, come on up, please. Yeah, and could you see if there's anybody in the overflow room also that would like to come up and be part of this? Come on up. Come on up, come on up. Did we get everybody from the overflow room?
Yeah, I think they all stayed in here.
All good?
Erica's rounding them off.
I want all the drivers up. Come on up here. This is your night. This is your night. Come on, come on. Darn right. You've earned this night. You've been very, very patient. So this is your night.
He's not going to do it until you guys get up here.
This is your 7 minutes of fame. All right, good. Thanks for, come on up, Erica. All right. Okay, we got a waiver from the governor for the six-foot rule for 8 minutes, all right? You have to hold your breath that long. All right, let's read this proclamation. Whereas, each year, Cobb Link passengers take millions of rides to work, home, school, doctor's appointments, and many other places, highlighting the essential nature of your services. This year, the coronavirus pandemic has presented unprecedented challenges throughout our county and nation. And whereas our highest priority is providing needed services while safeguarding the health of both employees and transit passengers, Cobb Link has about 250 bus operators, maintenance technicians, and administrative support personnel, such as supervisors and dispatchers. Employees have been both personally and professionally impacted by this global crisis, yet they continue to provide exceptional services to our residents, customers. And whereas, in March, Cobb Link and their staff responded quickly to the public health emergency and began operating a reduced schedule in its express bus routes to and from Atlanta, suspended walk-up services at the Marriott Transfer Center, and suspended public access to the Transit Customer Service Center in an effort to minimize possible spread of the virus, and essentially arranged priority seating on local buses and regular seating in the front of commuter buses were blocked off to practice social distancing. And whereas staff continued working with public health officials on the best way to keep everyone safe, implementing rear door entry exit and temporary suspending fare collection on buses as early as April, striving to best save Stewart County resources. Less used transit bus routes were temporarily suspended or had a reduced schedule with a modified service in May. The two Cumberland circulator routes were combined to run a single route with a modified schedule, and other routes also implemented additional social distancing practices to better balance loads. Now, therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby honor Cobb Link Transit System employees for their proven dedication to our residents and customers. We thank them for continuing to provide professional and efficient and safe services on a daily basis, even in the midst of the uncertainties of these times during the global pandemic. Signed this 25th day of August, 2020, by all 5 members of the Board of Commissioners. Congratulations and thank you for all you've done for us. So who wants to speak for First Transit? All right, come on up, young lady. It's all yours.
I am speechless. I'm very grateful that, my team is recognized today. These essential workers have been, great throughout the pandemic, responding to the needs of, the community and serving, the transportation services like nothing was happening. So thank you for this. This is the team. Thank you.
All right, Ken. 13 seconds.
This is a great day for Cobb and a great day for First Transit, as well as the ATU. These guys go to work every day. They have families. They have never stopped. They call me when they need me, and sometimes they call me when I don't want to go. But yeah, this is what transit is all about, and this is what we do for this county, and we will continue to do so. Thank you, Erica, and thank you, Mr. Chairman, and all of the commissioners, Bob, Lisa, homegirl, Ms. Gamble. We thank you so much.
All right, photo op now. I'd like to get the board to come down. Just hold your breath. I'd like to get the board down here for this one. Absolutely. Coordinate this out. We gotta shift this way, come on. All right, we're gonna do something different, tall in front, tall in back.
Some might be able to come up here.
There we go. Come on over here, come on.
Seriously, we're gonna line up some people in the back.
Yeah, why don't you just stand back there?
Yeah, why don't we just, we can stand right here.
There we go.
6 feet apart.
Want to get back over here with them? That way they're all in the picture.
This'll work.
Somebody's hiding back there. Yeah, there we go.
Not purposefully. She didn't want to come up.
All right, y'all set? Here we go. Say cheese behind the mask. Here we go.
Yeah, you can't tell if they're smiling or not. Good job. Thank you.
Okay. All right, I'd The last one is a little bit unusual. Matter of fact, I think this is the first time I've ever had a chance to do this. I've had a request to have a proclamation read into the record. Commissioner Cupid sponsored this proclamation from the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council, and they've asked me to read this brief statement and then read the proclamation into the record. This is from Emily Yang, who's the Director of Communications and Marketing for the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council. And she states, "We appreciate the opportunity to be presented the proclamation in person. However, given our current situation, we are going to veer on the side of safety and request a verbal acknowledgement instead of a personal presentation." And she's asked us to record this into the minutes as having been presented, and I'm asking the clerk to do that as soon as I'm done with the proclamation. And then whereas, for 45 years, the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council, Georgia's leading small business development supplier diversity organization, has certified minority business enterprise firms, developed their capability, capacity, and competency, and facilitated partnerships with corporations and governments in need of their goods and services. And whereas, according to Dun & Bradstreet, there are 1,161 minority-owned businesses in Cobb County, and in 2019, the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council helped minority business enterprise firms create 130,000 jobs, generate $5.4 billion in wages, and contribute more than $13 billion in gross domestic product in the state of Georgia. And whereas the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council continues to support Georgia's minority business enterprises through its various signature events and educational programs designed to provide opportunities for growth, success, and long-term sustainability. Whereas on September 14th through 18th, 2020, the Georgia Minority Supplier Development Council will host its annual Business Opportunity Exchange to stimulate opportunities and explore ways for minority businesses to do business with corporate and governmental supply chains. Therefore, we, the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, do hereby proclaim September 14th through 18th, 2020 as the Minority Business Opportunity Week in Cobb County to honor the achievements of minority businesses and their importance to our economy, signed this 25th day of 2020 by all 5 members of the Cobb County Board of Commissioners. And I'll be asking the county clerk to read this into the minutes as presented. Thank you, Commissioner Cupid. You bet. Okay, so let's get on to the next part of the agenda tonight, which is public hearing. And tonight we have the first public hearing to solicit comments and input on the proposed amendments to Chapter 6, Chapter 78, and Chapter 134 of the Official Code of Cobb County. And with that, I'll turn the floor over to County Attorney, Mr. Bill Rowling.
Thank you, Chairman. Yesterday afternoon at the work session, the board was presented with an overview of the changes that we were proposed regarding Chapter 6, 78, and 134. As we said at that point in time, Chapter 6 and 134 are actually related to definition changes for the most, and Chapter 78, Article 3, Division 8 is a removal and replacement in its entirety. It was read during that point in time yesterday. I'm going to ask Scott Berthold to come forward and just speak to the resolution regarding the secondary effects, which would be what we'd also be asking you to vote on regarding at that time after the second hearing. Mr. Berthold.
Good evening, Chairman and members of the Commission. This will be short. Yesterday was the longer version of the presentation regarding the negative secondary effects of adult uses. We have prepared a resolution that would essentially be like a preamble or whereas clause. It's not something that will actually get adopted into the code, but it just says whereas sexually oriented businesses require special supervision from the public safety agencies of the county in order to protect and preserve the health, safety, and welfare of the patrons of such businesses as well as the citizens of the county. And whereas the Board of Commissioners finds, based on the presentation and the evidence you've previously been given, that sexually oriented businesses as a category of establishments are frequently used for unlawful activities, whereas there's convincing documented evidence that such businesses as a category of establishments have deleterious secondary effects, and are often associated with crime and adverse effects on surrounding properties. And finally, whereas the Board of Commissioners desires to protect the health, safety, and welfare of the citizenry, protect the citizens from crime, preserve the quality of life in Cobb County, preserve the character of surrounding neighborhoods, and deter the spread of urban blight. Then it gets into some of the materials and the cases that we talked about in the longer presentation, but essentially the closing preambulatory paragraph, if you will, says, now therefore be it resolved that the Cobb County Board of Commissioners adopts the findings and evidence concerning sexually oriented businesses in section 78-320 of the official code of Cobb County, Georgia, as support for its regulation of such establishments. And that's the new section 78-320 that is a part of the repeal and replace of chapter 78. So essentially this is a resolution recognizing or acknowledging that the Board of County Commissioners has received and considered evidence concerning the negative secondary effects of adult uses, and that it's proceeding with the first reading on the Chapter 78 replacement on that basis.
Okay, thank you. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and just sort of review the guidelines before I open up the public hearing. Each speaker is limited to 3 minutes. There is no limit to the number of speakers. As you come forward to the podium, please let us know who you are and where you live in Cobb County. And with that, I now declare this public hearing open on the first public hearing to solicit comments and input on the proposed amendments to Chapter 6, 78, and 134 of the official code of Cobb County. Does anybody wish to come and make comments?
Chairman, I would just ask that we wait a moment, make sure there's
Sure.
no one in the overflow that might want to come in.
overflow room, there's nobody that wants to make comments.
Okay. All right. Seeing none, I now declare this first public hearing closed. Public comment.
Chairman, we have 12 speakers who signed up this evening.
All right.
Typically, the practice of the board to take all of them at the front, if you want to. The rules require 6 at the middle and then 6 at the end of the hearing,
Yeah.
whatever the board's pleasure is.
Except that I know there's a significant number of people in the overflow room there, so I'm going to go back to the traditional practice of 6 and 6. All right, we'll do the first 6, hear from them, and then we'll go on to the agenda and do the last 6 at the end of the meeting. Okay? All right, so let's get into the first public comment. Yes.
I'd like to propose we do all 12 up top because I'm not sure, I didn't see who signed in, but I just noticed there's some young children, that maybe perhaps with those that desire to speak. And for some of them, they're going to have to wait after the business of the meeting to have public comment. And for other matters, we've allowed them to come forward together. So I would propose that we allow them to speak.
Well, is there any way we know what the 12 subjects are from the 12 speakers?
There are people, some of them wrote down what they're speaking about. There's an array of different various issues.
Well, how about the last 6? Do we know what their subject is?
We don't typically.
Let's do this. Let's go ahead and start with the first 6, Mr. Rowling, and let's go find out with the last 6 what their issues are, okay? And if they have kids there, if they have children in that last 6, then I'll go ahead and support the commissioner in her request to do the 12 at the upfront.
Well, to actually change it requires a 4/5 vote.
Well, I still want to see if there's children in that last 6 of 6. If there's not children in the last 6, then I believe that we can go ahead and split, because I know there's a lot of people that are here for the upfront part of the meeting, and I just don't think it's fair to keep them waiting an hour.
Let's just do all 12 and be done with it. I mean,
All right, okay. What do you want to do? Commissioner Gamble, how do you feel? You can go either way? Commissioner Ott? All right.
What was decided, I'm sorry?
We're going to go ahead and do all 12.
The first one is Nancy.
We did. I heard 4.
I don't know if that was technical.
Just let all the public speakers know that we come up to the front here. There's a 5-minute timer, and the timer's on the podium, and I'll start it when you start talking.
Should I take this off?
You can, yes, sure.
All right, Dan, you have 5 minutes.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you for allowing me to be here. My name is Nancy, and I'm currently homeless. I'm a single mom, and I have a 16-year-old daughter. I got evicted on Wednesday. My landlord started calling me on last week on Monday. On Friday, the 14th of August, I called the courthouse and I asked them if I had an eviction order. They told me that I didn't have one. And I told them that my landlord was harassing me. She was calling me. And they told me that she didn't have a right to call me or harass me. And she wasn't even supposed to come to the house. Saturday, Sunday, Monday, she kept calling me. She told me that I had to move because she had other people who could pay more money, $1,600 to $1,700. She kept calling me more than 20 times. I ended up having to disconnect my landline because it was, I told her that my daughter was trying to do homework and it kept messing around with the internet. On Wednesday morning, I was making breakfast and my daughter was on the computer. And I heard loud noises on the door. The sheriff came and they knocked on the door. There were about 10 of them. Cars parked outside. And I asked them, I said, "Good morning, what is this about?" They told me, "Step out." I asked them, "What did I do? What is this about?" "Ma'am, please step out." They asked me, "Is there somebody in the house?" I said, "It's just me and my daughter." They said, "Do I have any weapons on me?" I said, "No, I don't have any weapons." They went in the house and searched the house. And they asked me, they said, "Whose garden is it at the back of your house?" I said, "It's my garden." Then I started with my daughter. Then they told me that I had to move because the landlord said that I was doing some illegal activity. That the landlord said I haven't paid her. So I explained to them that I'd never received any eviction order. I didn't receive anything in the mail, and I called the courthouse on Friday. They didn't even have an eviction order themselves. So they went over to the landlord, and she gave them something that she filed in November, December last year. So they brought it back to me, and I explained to them that that was from last year. And I asked them to allow me to go get my file so they can actually check the dates and look at the receipts. And I showed them the receipts. They went back to the lady, and she says, "No, I never paid her." So I asked them, "Please, can you allow me to call even the commissioner or 911, because the police in this area, they are already familiar with my situation." They wouldn't allow me. I'm an essential worker. I have underlying diseases. I've been affected by COVID. They threw me out with no shoes. I had to go to the hospital. My daughter, everything. All I just want to say is, this can't keep on happening. You have to protect people. I didn't have an eviction order. I was never notified. When I came back from this is my Bible and other stuff that was. We have to come up with better ways for mothers and single mothers and families. It is not right. I'm not a bad person. Listen, I'm hardworking. It's not my fault that there's a pandemic. It's just not right. We need to do more. I know we can do more. We can do more. We need to do more for families, please. I hope you have your heart. Do more for families. It's not right.
Ma'am, I'm sorry, your time's up.
Okay. All right. Obviously, you came with some group of people here. Could you do me a favor, ma'am? You see the county manager right here, Dr. McMorris? I'd like you to leave your information with her, and we're going to follow up on this to see exactly why it is that what the landlord did, all right? And let me make sure we have a contact information for you so we can get back to you this week. I'm really sorry about your circumstances. I'm sure every member of the board is too.
Cynthia Johnson?
Good evening, Chairman Boyce and Commissioners. Some of you know me personally. Some I've harassed so many times through email, and I appreciate you listening to my concerns and doing what you can to address them. To the other commissioners, I have emailed you guys as well, so I just wanted you to see my face and put my face with the voice that you guys, I hope you heard through my letter that I sent the other day. I want to just read the letter that I wrote, and I'm going to refrain from saying the community that I live in out of respect for them, because I do want to continue a good relationship. I've lived there for 14 years. However, I must speak out. I realize that we are facing many obstacles due to the COVID-19. However, we must not forget that we've been battling a housing crisis in Georgia for years. According to the Georgia Apartment Association, there are more than 410 member companies that own and manage over 410 apartments in Georgia. However, the number of rentals don't compare to the need of the people, so low to moderate income tenants have an extreme difficult time finding suitable, safe, and habitable housing in Georgia and other states. Some of the rentals available in Cobb are very maintained. However, many owners neglect their units, and tenants are forced to live in communities plagued with roaches and mold. It is unacceptable. And inhumane that tenants are terrified of being evicted for complaining, so they're forced to accept these conditions because they have no other place to go. In addition, most renters face eviction because of low-paying jobs, inadequate affordable housing, and no local and federal funding. Every year, millions of federal funds are allocated to Cobb to cover rent for many residents in Cobb County. However, the funds are directed to the Marietta Housing Authority instead of the Cobb County Housing Authority. The residents of Cobb rely heavily on the board to ensure that our partners, including the Marietta Housing Authority, developers and landlords and owners, build and maintain their properties. In addition, residents rely on the board to investigate and resolve tenant complaints. The board must appoint a resident to Marietta Housing Authority to represent the tenants currently living in apartment complexes. There are no exposure standards for molds, and they can affect people differently. People with respiratory conditions, immune, depressed individuals, and young children are especially at risk for molds and can be impacted by them even when others do not notice a problem. Therefore, your constituents are relying on the board to protect the citizens that you serve by investigating this matter.
The community that I live in has been in partnerships with Cobb and Marriott Housing Authority for years, and they generally maintain their properties. However, their management and staff have known for years that several of their properties have issues with water intrusions, water leaks, moisture, high levels of humidity, and mold. I believe they intentionally masked over the property, the issues, until their application was financial assistance to rehab the complex was approved by Georgia Department of Community Affairs. On November 27, 2018, the commissioners approved a resolution for the Cobb Housing Authority to issue tax-exempt multifamily housing revenue bonds not to exceed $28 million to finance part of the cost of the renovation that I live in. The complex is located, and I won't disclose that. For the renovation to qualify for maximum federal and Georgia tax funds, the project must continue to be an affordable housing project and not enough partners, and have enough partners so that the existing partners will owe less than 50% of the new partnership and have a significant percentage of the total allocated costs for proceeds of this tax exempt issue. The Cobb County Housing Authority, through 501c organization, has a 20% share of the new partnership. Therefore, the board has a duty and a responsibility to ensure the mold and damages to tenants are fully investigated and resolved. I look forward to you guys, and I know that certain one of you guys are running for new elections this year, and
Ms. Johnson, I'm sorry.
okay. And we rely on you to make changes. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Johnson.
Nicole Smith.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hello, and thank you for listening to everyone tonight, including me. My name is Nicole, and I've been living in Cobb County since 2002. I searched for it before I left Brooklyn, New York, and it seemed to be the best place for me to live. And I've been on the receiving end of that for a very long time. So I'd like to preface the letter that I initially sent to you guys with these words. You guys struck me as a sort of community that looked after its people. And that's not to say that you dropped the ball, but people do get lost in the shuffle. So going forward, we need to make sure that everybody is included in the shuffle. My name is Nicole, and I'm writing on behalf of myself and my fellow constituents who live in Cobb County, most especially those facing the threat of eviction. I am writing because Cobb County has become a leader in the pathways of empathy, kindness, and care of our fellow man or woman. I know this because I have been on the receiving end of the aforementioned pathways and attitudes. I've had help from churches. I've had help from the people in the schools where I worked. I'm grateful for that, and I want people to remember that and recognize that. You can imagine my surprise when I found out about a single black mother and her 16-year-old daughter that were evicted from their home. Even during the second wave of a pandemic that has changed for the worse the lives of so many, this year has taken a toll on the mental, physical, and emotional health of everyone. Unemployment, fear of losing health care, food and utility insecurity, and for many, loneliness. While I understand that legal proceedings were in place before the county closed down, I would have thought that a moratorium would have been extended over the process regarding anything that was late. Evictions mean homelessness, as folks who are quarantining may not have the space in their dwellings to share for those that are homeless. Evictions mean pushing the fragile mental health of people to the edge from which they may not recover. Evictions mean that it is more important for a fragile economy to recover at any and all costs, that people are overlooked. And the people are the economy. This is not the way to handle these moments. Human beings need compassion. They need security, not callous actions of others. I have ideas to help going forward. The full scope of this issue needs a community gathering to assist with solutions. Monica Delancey, founder of We Thrive in Riverside, was an indomitable force for good as she rounded up assistance to help the woman that was evicted. I wouldn't have known about it otherwise. The video that was shared on Facebook was heartbreaking as you watched people helping, and you heard this young baby scream and wail for her mother. I understand, they're teenagers, they're almost adults, but that was her mother. I know that we can find a way to keep these moments from happening. I'm sure of it. Financial assistance is only one corner of this issue. The courts and the sheriff's office need to have a better system of communication. Peer counseling and harnessing the power of our neighbors, people we walk past in the supermarket, in Publix. I see you, I say hi. Well, I used to before this. Checking in on those that are struggling financially, physically, and mentally. Let's become the village. I look forward to your response to this message, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Denny Wilson.
Good evening, Chairman Boyce and members of the Board of Commissioners. I'm Denny Wilson, and I reside in District 4. And I come before you tonight to speak about the eviction process here in Cobb County as well as the state of Georgia. Sharon Cooper, a state representative from East Cobb, did a great deed for the Six Flags community in getting House Bill 346, which was the tenant retaliation bill. She got it through the House and the Senate onto Governor Kemp's desk for his signature on May 8th, and it was signed into law. And as you know, this bill made it illegal for landlords in the state of Georgia to retaliate against tenants for reporting issues with building, housing codes, or utility problems to government agencies by raising their rent or denying services. In speaking with Representative Cooper, I learned she saw the news story on what was going on in the Six Flags area as a call for action. And jump to action she did. I thank Representative Cooper for her diligence in taking on this battle and seeing it through. But this law falls short of how eviction procedures should be carried out. It's just inhuman to put someone's belonging on the street. The eviction court in Cobb County, from what I have learned, 80% of the eviction proceedings in Cobb are performed against black women.
Yes.
80% against black women. And I'm just gonna lay the problem where it should be laid. We're under black leadership. We're all in this thing that says Black Lives Matter. Well, what about these mothers with these children that's being put out on the street? And these children see their toys being set out, their books being destroyed. This lady last week, her belongings was in the rain. I mean, people were trying to scramble and get her stuff up and get it in a U-Haul to a storage facility. And last week it was pouring down rain. So when you guys start running around saying Black Lives Matter, you need to say all lives matter. Because these are black women. These are your own kind. And if you take an oath to serve the public and to serve the district, then you should also be serving these black women who are being set out on the street, no matter what the circumstances. I mean, now don't get me wrong, I'm not advocating for anybody who does not pay their rent. But sometimes there are circumstances that dictate that they cannot do it. And if you can't lean on the public officials to lend a helping hand, then who can you lean on? I mean, I sent an email to the legislators. Not one of them responded to that email. And we say Black Lives Matter. Come on, you guys. I mean, I appreciate Representative Cooper for what she did. I've met with her, I've talked to her. I appreciate you, Chairman Boyce, for what you did when you came out to the Six Flags area. You came until they got those apartments up to code. You stayed there the whole time until those apartments were up to code. You hammered those landlords. You made them do the right things for those families. That's the epitome of a great leader. And we all thank you for that. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, Ms. Wilson.
Sheila Edwards.
Hello, Chairman Boyce and members of the Board of Commissioners. My name is Sheila Edwards. I'm a homeowner and taxpayer in the Mapleton area of South Cobb. As of a few weeks ago, I was also a candidate for Cobb County Commissioner for District 4. As I begin my comments, I want to take a moment to thank the voters in the district for participating in the political process, as it is always hard getting people to come back out for a runoff election. So I'm deeply grateful and humbled that voters insisted on having their voices heard. As the final ballots were counted that night, it revealed several things. First, our community was a winner at the polls that evening, as 4,919 votes were cast for me and the real platform I offered for our community. However, when the final count of absentee ballots was completed, the mail-in votes determined the outcome of the race, with my opponent receiving a greater share. I'm extremely proud of the race that we ran, as we received just short of 50% of the votes from members of the community, which reflected a greater shared concern on the issues we raised, as well as hope for our future in District 4. The votes also reflected discontent with the status quo and an enormous demand for real substantive changes, a fact that cannot be ignored. While running for office, I talked about families, seniors, veterans, our community, wanting, desiring, and demanding more. Nancy's situation falls into this category. I talked about economic development, good-paying jobs, and affordable housing that could come from the development of Magnolia Crossing, 50 acres of land that is sat dormant, and which many of the politicians have refused to pursue. I talked about the empowerment of our community in keeping noxious usages from becoming our neighbors and hurting our families and homes. This talk, however, angered some, especially those leaders closest to the very entities and special interests that would harm our community. While in the race for over a year, I stood by the decisions I made and the factual issues I raised. I want everyone to know that I conducted myself in a manner to which my family and my community could be proud, notwithstanding being subjected to some of the most mean-spirited, divisive, distasteful, false, and hateful actions from the very people in our community that would call themselves leaders. Yes, I was attacked by a coalition of elected officials and their internet trolls, community organizations and their marionette leaders, those who would turn around and claim fairness and demand fairness and protection, yet they weren't willing to protect me. I call them the reason why our community will never move forward. In the face of all of that, there were voters and real community leaders who supported me and helped me to weather the false and negative personal attacks and threats. Yes, threats, orchestrated by those so-called leaders. I thank them for their unwavering support, which continues to this day. As a taxpayer, homeowner, and now as a former candidate for office, I have expectations of our government and our community. I believe we are entitled to the best quality of life that is obtainable. These are not expectations that will go away. As I settle back into my role as a community advocate, I want everyone to know that I plan to continue to lead voters in our community in our demand for positive changes in South Cobb. So my talking on these issues will continue. We will watch, monitor, challenge, and hold our elected officials accountable for what occurs in our community going forward and for what does not occur. I urge the community to remain vigilant and continue to fight with me for our quality of life, as we refuse to be marginalized by politicians, so-called community groups and organizations, and special interests such as waste, concrete, and Styrogenics, and the people who represent them, as they are all averse to a healthy and prosperous South Cobb in District 4. My other subject to talk about this evening is about renters' rights, and I joined the group this evening, and I give a nod to Monica Delansky and her renters' rights organization for keeping a light shining on this real-life issue that renters face each day. They have my full support. I want to also address something that's always troubled me, and that is placing a person's personal properties on the street. This remains a sobering and hurtful sight to see families' personal belongings placed on the side of the road. Clothing, books, kitchenware, beds, toys scattered about as if these people never mattered. It is the epitome of man's inhumanity to man that we sit back and allow such an act to take place. I, like many in this room, enjoy a comfortable middle-class lifestyle where I have a home to go back to at the end of the evening without the day-to-day worries that renters face. Many renters work 2 and 3 jobs in order to keep a roof over their heads, yet they are faced with the possibility that they too could be placed on the road. I've spoken on this issue before, and I will continue to lend my voice and raise my voice in saying we are better than this. Something better needs to occur in these situations, and it is up to us to lead a change on it. Cobb County, we are better than this, and we should be willing to create better ways to deal with these types of situations, which does not cause further harm or damage to a family, especially children.
Ms. Edwards, I'm sorry, your time's up.
Thank you.
Ms. Walker? Tamisha Walker?
Thank you, Ms. Edwards.
Good evening, Chairman Boyce and Commissioners. I want to thank Ms. Monica for leading this fight and asking me to be here this evening. I am a local realtor in the Austell area, and my husband and I have lived there for over 13 years now. And as a realtor and financial planner, I hear every single day from clients the struggle to find suitable housing. 30% of Georgia households rent their homes. Half are cost burden, according to HUD. More than 30% of household incomes go to rent and utilities. These families routinely must choose to pay the rent, keep the lights or heat on, or pay for food. Other inevitable expenses like a car repair, a doctor visit, expensive prescription medicine put families at risk of not being able to pay the rent. Eviction is a leading cause of homelessness, and 40% of homeless families are families with children. Evictions harm children and adults' physical and emotional health and cause school disruption, job loss, property loss, increased ER visit risk and hospitalization. And eviction records make it very difficult or impossible to rent the next home. And we know that Georgia's eviction rate is one of the U.S. highest. We need further protection of renters, more affordable housing, economic development, and we need to hold these landlords and property managers accountable and to a higher standard than what I see every day when I'm out showing these properties. What I witnessed last week with Miss Nancy and her daughter was heart-wrenching. I implore you to protect the citizens that you serve because it really does take a village, especially during this pandemic when people are losing their jobs. We need to get ahead of this eviction pandemic because it doesn't have to be. And I thank you for hearing me this evening.
Thank you for your comments.
Denise Stroman?
Good evening, commissioners and everyone. Thank you for your time. I'm here today. Thank you, Ms. Monica, for inviting me to come. I and other families have been impacted due to COVID, lost wages. I have reached out to churches to get assistance for rental. I've been on Zoom calls, although we have assistance in Cobb with Star C, and the apartments complex are not allowing the owners, not allowing the assistance with Star C for as my apartments and other family members' apartments. And I would like to make a suggestion on why we can't have assistance for family members that are trying to live day to day and get assistance for their family, and they're just being pushed back on the back burner, where in certain situations when it's time for voting, is we get emails, mail, and junk mail saying, hey, vote for this person. But when we need assistance, it's like, okay, you're just another number. And I would like to just take the time out and voice my opinion on that. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am. Jessica Renee?
Great evening. Time goes fast, so excuse me if I go fast. I'm a mother of 8 children. I've come to Cobb County for the past 4 years. When my situation first started to get assistance, I went to Must Ministries this most recent time in February to let them know what was happening, and I was getting an eviction because I sued the apartments I was in due to it being roach infested, rat infested, having bed bugs. And I won a lawsuit in October, and right now they have an eviction on my background as of October because I won a lawsuit. So every place I go, I'm being turned away from because I have an eviction that never even happened. When I went to Must Ministries, a mother of 8 children, everywhere I go, there's so much help for a male that's on dope, an alcoholic, but a mother who's working. I have my own business cleaning. I went and I did what Must Ministry said. They said because I have my own business, I don't have real income to most people. So I got a regular job. I lost my job as a director at Tumbles here in Marietta because of your COVID. I went and got another job. Even me having this job, paying $10.50 an hour, I work between 50 to 60 hours a week, and I'm living in my car with my children. Must Ministries asked me to come up with the security, not the security deposit, it's a $250 administrative fee plus the application fee. So everywhere I've been, I've paid these $50 application fee, $90 application fee, and nothing comes from it. After I did the Must Ministries way, Must Ministries shut down and said, due to COVID, we can't help you, which left me and my 8 children out with nothing. But they have a shelter that we were supposed to go into. We couldn't even access the shelter, me and children. So I said, well, what do I do with the children? I even called DFACS on myself to say, hey, I need some type of help. I'm working, but we sleep in our car. Nobody cares that we sleep in a car. Nobody cares that I take my children and I put a sheet up to the van to allow my children to take a shower. I work, and I'm never asking for anyone to give me anything. I work. My 18-year-old son works, and he makes more money than me. Even with him trying to put things in his name, we're getting nowhere. And it seems like everybody is so, like she said, consumed with this Black Lives Matter. Well, that's not true, because what Black Lives Matter stands for is for police brutality against so-called black people. I'm Aboriginal. Me and my children, we're Native. We're not black, we're not African American. My family has taught me, I'm about to be 37 years old. My family has taught me we are native to these lands. We never get handouts. I was told in Gwinnett County when I had to leave and they sent me to Marietta because that's where the first problem started. How can you take care of all those children by yourself with no government assistance? I wasn't on Medicaid or food stamps, no housing. I did it on my own. And they took my children for 9 days for homeschooling them because I couldn't help them understand how I can take care of my family by myself. So now that I need help, there's no one. Now that I'm asking to say, whatever you need me to do, I will do that outside of laying on my back, because I'm going to be real raw, so I apologize, and robbing and killing people. Whatever I need to do to help my family be greater than great, I'm going to do that. At every turn I've done where they've asked me, Must Ministries and all these other places, and nothing has come from it besides doors closed, besides people looking at me like I'm crazy for being transparent finally. Because before, I would say, hey, I'm okay. Everything's fine, because I'm not used to asking for help. So now that I open my mouth as of truly February of this year to Must Ministries, trying to be so transparent, I had to sit there crying on the floor with my little baby because the head person at Must Ministries said, well, we can't do anything because the government shut down. We can't, I said, well, hold on, I just gave them the only $300 I had, because at the time, I didn't have the job they requested me to get. I'm on disability. So the $837 that I get every single month for myself and my children receive a $5 check. That's not enough to sustain a household on. So with us living in a car, I went and, since I got a new job, and bought a van. That van I just had to take back to the place, and I just got that last week because the axles are messed up on it. That was $1,300 that I had to take out to get that van so we could sleep in. Prior to that van, we were at a hotel. $110 a day is what I'm paying at a hotel. I ask again, is there any help to help with that? There's a company called PCCI, say they'll help us move into a place, but they can't help us in a hotel. We got approved to buy a home. I don't have $9,300 to put down on this home. So it's, what do you do when you have all these people that claim they're going to help,
Renee.
but there's no help?
Sorry, your time's up.
I appreciate you all.
Thank you, ma'am. Davida Carter.
Good evening.
Good evening.
My name is Davida Carter, and I'm a constituent in Cobb County. Also, I live, and my husband used to work in Cobb County, but because of COVID, he's a chef that works at a restaurant in Home Depot Supply. They've been closed down since April. No fault of his own, he's been with the same company for 8 years. He was supposed to get a raise, he was supposed to get 3 weeks vacation this year. So he's sitting home because of COVID. We have 4 adult children. 3 of them are girls that work in the industry, the hospitality industry that's been hit so very hard because of this pandemic. I have adult children with grandchildren that's in Cobb County schools. So first thing I want to talk about is the evictions and the unlawful evictions, especially during this pandemic. Some of my family has been faced with this because they have the loss of their jobs, to no fault of their own. Now they're trying to start up their own businesses because we are very resourceful people. And, you know, I feel the same way. This is our land. I'm a Cherokee. I'm American Indian. This is our land, and we should not have to worry about having a job or making a living or having a business here in the state that we live in the counties that we live in. Also, with the school thing, okay, I'm having a problem with my children calling me, telling me that they cannot log into the Cobb County school system because they're crashing. That's a big problem. So our children's education is being thrown on the wayside. I have 21 grandchildren out of 5 adult children. So this is a big problem. Fulton County have offered, and I have other children that's in Fulton County, they have offered a lot of help with the schools as far as, like, I have daughters that are single parents. They have one device, their only phone. So she has to go try to make some money and leave her phone so her child can sign in and do the work all day. Cobb County does not help them with these devices. There should have been it's been months that should have been planned out a lot better for these schools. My other children in Fulton County, those teachers and stuff, they help them get devices, use laptops so they can log in and do their schoolwork. Now, we're paying taxes. What is going on with our tax money? There are funds that are being allocated for Cobb County, public Indian housing, the HUD. There's millions of dollars that's being allocated for our county that we're not seeing in our communities at all. So I just wanted to come up here and support Ms. Monica. She does a lot for our community on the Six Flags Riverside Parkway. Helps with, all throughout the summer, helps with school, giving the school children weeks worth of food, lunches, because some of those children, they didn't get a good meal unless they were in school. And it's a shame. It's a lot of people out of work right now. And it's like, people are heartless. People are heartless. And that's basically all I had to say. And I think that, the court should give more than 7 days. Give people at least 30 days to get themselves together and try to get another job. Try to get another place to live. Because we do have a very big homeless population in Georgia. I went and fed the homeless down there by Grady, near Martin Luther King Edgewood section last Saturday. And I'm struggling myself. I'm disabled on a fixed income, and my husband is out of work because of COVID. We were making it before this. Now it's a big struggle. So that's all I wanted to say, and thank you for your time.
Thank you, ma'am.
Monica Delancey.
Good evening. Definitely did not want to return on this rainy evening speaking about another eviction of a black woman. You know my story all too well, how I was evicted with my 2 children 2 weeks before Christmas. They even put out the Christmas tree, okay? So when Nancy called me last Wednesday, screaming in the phone, said, Miss Monica, please come here now. They're about to put me out. I told my sister Courtney, I said, I have to go see about Nancy. So I immediately rushed down to 1324 Ling Drive, Austell, Georgia, in unincorporated Austell. And I did not get out the car because I saw 8 shelves. I could see 8. I guess the other 2 was in the house. But I said, well, let me just monitor from outside to see what I need to do. And then her daughter come outside screaming, saying, my mom is having a heart attack. My mom is having a heart attack. And I said, just come on, let's get in the car. And let's, the paramedics came and they was able to assist Nancy. But then the eviction was starting. And I couldn't lift no furniture by myself. I couldn't do that. So I put out a call through Facebook, and luckily Miss Tamisha Walker saw the post and was coming down the street at the same time. Thank you, Miss Tamisha, for coming. Her and her husband helped out. Miss Cynthia Johnson, who you heard speak from, she came right away and went and picked up the U-Haul truck for me so I can stay there and watch, because some people are heartless. They come by, try to take people things, so I had to stay and watch. And then another lady sent her husband and son over to help start moving the furniture. And another lady, she said, what else do you need? What do you need? She went down to the U-Haul place because they wasn't taking the card, because that's all we had. So she went down and took cash down so we can get this U-Haul, because we can see the clouds. We can see the gray is going to start raining. So not only is the 60-year-old daughter of Nancy is homeless, but she's without a school because all the school is taking place online. So we don't know how Nancy, or we don't know how anybody from those 300 people that before COVID was seen on a weekly basis in Cobb County Magistrate Court for evictions. We don't know what their story or how what transpired, but we do know that low wages, when you tell someone you're going to pay them $12 an hour, what is that going to pay when you have children? So obviously, at some point, you're going to see yourself in eviction court, okay? But we don't have to have our things put out on the street, on the sidewalk. This should be a better process. And I'm sure, and I'm not making assumptions, but I don't know. I think there's a better way to say, okay, we have 10 evictions planned for district so-and-so. Maybe contact that commissioner and say, are there any more resources? Okay, well, there's no more resources, the landlord's not ready to talk to this person, but can we arrange for a U-Haul or arrange for movers so that we don't have to put these latest things in the rain? Because there were things that were broken. You saw the Bible was ruined, but there were glasses broken, picture frames broken. They putting out, books that people actually have books. and they're putting them out, and it's going to get rained on. So yes, I'm glad that everybody's here tonight. When I get to naming names, I miss names, but thank you to everybody that came, Ms. Rhonda, Detarius and his family, Courtney, Miss Georgia, Davita, and again, Miss Tamisha and her husband, Miss Sheila Edwards, Denny Wilson, because it takes a lot. Miss Monique is here, that lives in Kingsley Village, but it takes a lot to mobilize people to come out on a rainy evening. So I do want to acknowledge them and thank you for the time, and not one more eviction should take place on your watch. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Delancey.
Charlotte McCray. That's okay, ma'am. It's open for comment.
Good evening, Commissioner Boyce, and all the other commissioners. My name is Ms. McCray, and I both reside and I work here in Cobb County. I provide public transportation services within Cobb and Fulton counties, and I'm here requesting your consideration, approval, and disbursement of hazardous work pay for the employees of Cobb Link, of which I am an operator. On March 24th, 2020, Commissioner Boyce issued an executive order declaring a state of emergency due to COVID-19, directing all county citizens to shelter in place, with the exception of those determined to be essential. Despite this declaration, as we heard earlier, and the apparent and non-apparent dangers of COVID-19, Cobb Link and its employees continued and still continue to provide the citizens of this county with their transportation needs. As of August 18th, 2020, Georgia now leads the nation with its rate of new coronavirus cases per the White House, as reported in the AJC. To date, we have lost one known fellow employee to COVID-19. We've also lost another employee to an apparent heart attack at the young age of 44. As operators, we work ground zero every single day, having extremely close physical contact with not only the public within Cobb and Fulton counties, but also with the high-risk public of both counties, the essential workers, the elderly, the homeless, and those with compromised immune systems, some with masks and some without. No other profession has a higher risk than us except the healthcare system of Georgia. We do this all while being shut up in a tubular mode of transportation, labeled and considered a weapon of mass destruction, with air recirculating within itself several times over. We then return back to our families with the hope of not compromising our very own homes, but not without first reporting back to the depot and having contact with the dispatchers, supervisors, mechanics, and leadership of Cobb Link. We at Cobb Link are valuable. A fair amount of hazardous work pay is an additional $2 per hour from the date of the shelter-in-place order issued up until such time as our risks are removed, which is looking like end of year. This amounts to approximately $320 of hazardous pay per month. This additional $2 would be across the board for all Cobb Link employees, but a favorable amount would be an additional $3 an hour, which would amount to an additional $480 a month. These amounts are still much, much lower than the amounts received by the non-essential workers of Georgia who were permitted to stay safely at home with their families. They received an additional $2,400 a month. And I thank you now in advance for your consideration, approval, and disbursement of hazardous work for the Cobb Link employees, your county public transportation provider. And I was under assumption that I only had three minutes, but I enjoy transportation. I enjoy operating my vehicle, customer service. I enjoy all of that. But when we show up
We are face to face with the public, with COVID, with whatever. But we keep showing up, and we're going to keep showing up because that's what we do. We're good employees. We're great employees. I just really hope that the value that is placed on it, and unfortunately right now in this system, money is a value. It's a measure of value. I've heard things of $500. I've heard things of $1,000. When you break that down, it's like $2.70 a day if it's 500. It's like $5.55 if it's 1,000. I understand all of that, but I really do believe that it would be fair to add it onto our wages on top of what we already received, and for it to be covered all the way back until we started in this situation, because we never stopped showing. We had to take turns to, some people take turns, we go get tested. Some people, you come in, you fill in, you do the overtime, you cover the routes, you do the best you can. We did all of that, and we are valuable. And right now, as I said a few moments ago, money is the measuring value here for Cobb Link. And I thank you for your time for speaking.
Thank you, ma'am.
Ken Howell.
Mr. Chairman, I acquiesce.
Okay.
With that, that concludes the speakers for this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Howell. All right, I thank for all the comments tonight, and also the last speaker. Her words were very eloquent. Okay, let's go to the consent agenda. And so I'm going to ask Brad to go ahead and scroll the consent agenda on the screen for those here and at home. And those that are aware of the item number 20 tonight, there was some changes made to reflect the contractor associated with that program, and that's been, and the consent agenda has been revised to reflect those necessary revisions to bring it up to something that can be executable by the board and by the chairman. Okay, with that, I make a motion that we approve the consent agenda as revised. Second, discussion? Any discussion? All in favor? Call the motion. All in favor, please, your hand. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, let's go on to the regular agenda. First one will be DOT.
Good afternoon, Commissioners. We have 4 items for consideration under the regular agenda. The first item is requesting that the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 1 to the contract with D&H Construction Company, Inc., a no-cost time extension through September 30th of 2020 for drainage system repairs on Lost Mountain Lane.
Commissioner Gamble.
So moved.
Discussion? Call the question. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next item is requesting that the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 1 to the contract with Baldwin Paving Company, Inc., a no-cost time extension through December 28th of 2020 for intersection improvements on Factory Shoals Road at Riverside Parkway.
Commissioner Cupid. Second? We have a second from Commissioner Ott. Any discussion? Call the question. All in favor, raise your hand. Passes 5-0.
Thank you. Our next item is requesting that the Board of Commissioners approve change order number 2 final to the contract with Accelera Construction LLC, a savings to the project in the amount of $118,538.73 for repairs on the Silver Comet Trail bridges.
Commissioner Cupid. Second. Do we have a second? Any discussion? Call the question. All raise your hand. Passes 5-0.
Okay, thank you. And then our next item is requesting that the Board of Commissioners approve supplemental agreement number 1 to the project X2769, TO number 1, to the 2018 Master Task Order contract with Long Engineering, Inc. in an amount not to exceed $123,703.68 for engineering design of Old Alabama Road sidewalks.
Commissioner Cupid. Have a second. Discussion? Call the question. Raise your hand. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Erica. Next one, support services.
Good evening, Mr. Chairman, Commissioners. This item is in reference to the property situated at 4569 Dallas Street in Ackworth, Georgia. The Property Advisory Commission recommends that this property be declared surplus and sold to the City of Ackworth. We recommend that the Board of Commissioners declare as surplus and approve a contract for sale of the property situated at 4569 Dallas Street in Ackworth, Georgia, not required for county purposes, to the City of Ackworth through the brokerage firm of McWhorter Realty Partners in the amount of $240,000 pursuant to the terms of the attached agreement for purchase and sale, authorize the corresponding budget transactions, and further authorize the chairman to execute the necessary documents and take all other action necessary to facilitate this sale.
Commissioner Gamble.
So moved.
Have a second. Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner Gamble. Okay, we did all the public comments, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
All right, I have two appointments to announce and then one to ask the board's approval on. So I want to announce the appointment of Ralph Wren to the Workforce Development Board. He'll be filling a vacated post, and his position will expire on June 30th, 2023. And also, I'm pleased to announce the appointment of Michael Chris to the Workforce Development Board. He's also filling a vacant post, and his term will also expire on June 30th, 2023. And finally, I'd like to ask the board, I make a motion to approve the reappointment of Anna Murphy to the Cobb Board of Family and Children's Services, Post 5. Have a second. Discussion? Call the question. Passes 5-0. Thank you. Okay, so I'm going to start with Commissioner Ott first tonight.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Before we put up the slides that Kim prepared, just want to make a few comments here. We live in a country where we have the freedom of choice, not a place where the government dictates our every action. I don't smoke, not because the government dictates it, but because I choose not to. I wear a helmet when I ride my bike because I choose to be safe. I wear this mask not because of a government mandate, but because I choose to wear it for my wife and my family. I choose it to wear it for my 87-year-old mom. I wear it for your parents, your grandparents, and especially for my friends with compromised immunity systems because they are recovering from cancer. So I ask you to be like me and choose to wear a mask. On the first slide here, we have a social media comment. I'll let you read it. And Cobb Douglas Public Health wants you to stop the spread, wash your hands, wear your mask, and watch your distance. All right, Brad, next slide. All right, I didn't make these, I'm telling you right now. Social distance guidelines, pilot style. You should see that thing get off the runway. Next slide. Really tough to keep them on in flight. That's right. Hey, but they got speed tape. You'd be amazed when that goes on. Next slide. All right, we talked about voting. We want you to register to vote. You can register for the November election. But here's why your vote matters. All of these positions are up for election on November 3rd. And this is the first page. Next slide. And there's another page, right, Brad? That's why your vote's important. That is your government. Those are the people that are represented to elect you. Those are the people that have an impact on your lives. So make sure you vote. That's all I have. Oh, one more. Sorry. Shout out for Cobb DOT. Everybody knows we had some significant weather over the weekend. This is just an example of some of the trees that came down. Especially hard hit was Johnson Ferry Road, along with Paper Mill and Sibley Forest and Gunby Road. So shout out to DOT. As always, they were there in record time and kept the citizens safe. That's the last one, right? Yes.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Cupid.
Ross, if we can put that one last, and I'll just make longer comments regarding the eviction. Let's put the eviction slide last, and I'll talk about the other matters first. Thank you. Every month, we have a virtual zoning meeting since the pandemic hit, and I am grateful for Vanessa, my assistant, and also Information Systems for helping to organize these. Our next one will be this Wednesday, August 26th at 6 p.m., where we will discuss cases that will be coming up on the September agenda. To sign up, please reach out to me in response to my newsletter, or you can email me at lisa.cupid@cobbcounty.org. I'm grateful that in continuation of supporting our community with CARES dollars that the county received, that the chamber is broadening their relief grants to now include not-for-profits through the efforts of Commissioner Ott and others in our community. The application period will open this Thursday through September 11th. And to learn more, there is the same website listed here that has been listed for our businesses at selectcobb.com / oh, they've changed the category here, / NFP grants. With respect to all the comments about the pandemic, because we are in a pandemic, Wellstar and Cobb Douglas Public Health have teamed up to ensure that communities have access to free COVID testing. The next free COVID pop-up testing event will be Saturday, August 29th from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m., and it will be at Antioch Loving Spirit here in Mableton. Again, if you sign up for my newsletter, you should have access to this. Also, you can certainly visit social media and even visit Mableton's social media page to learn more about this event. On our screen is an application for an official absentee ballot. I have received some emails as residents have been receiving applications for absentee ballots from different organizations that are mailing them out to voters. There has been some question about the size of the application with respect to the envelope. I cannot necessarily speak to that, but what I can share with you is that this was not initiated by Cobb County government, even though our elections director has been fielding a lot of questions. This has been initiated by a number of organizations that want to ensure that the public has access to the polls, particularly in light of the pandemic and the overwhelming concern that people may not appear in person to vote out of concerns about the pandemic. There's also lingering concerns about the wait times that people have experienced while waiting to vote, and that has prompted some organizations to receive these applications. Just know that you can always apply, submit it, and receive a ballot that you can turn in at one of our drop boxes. But again, I just want to make you aware that you may be receiving these in the mail outside of Cobb elections, and you also may receive these more than once, as I'm aware of at least 2 organizations that are targeting voters with these applications. Next slide. Thank you to our Cobb Chamber. I don't have my stats in front of me, but over the past month, the Chamber has been distributing checks to small businesses who did apply for the small business grant. We were here within this meeting room, actually taking part in a check ceremony for some of our small businesses and having the opportunity to speak with some of them afterwards. Just warmed your heart in knowing that you are helping people here in Cobb who are hoping to keep our economy going. So I just want to thank the Chamber for their partnership through Select Cobb, and again, looking forward to the continued partnership to ensure that our nonprofit community continues to be supported so that they can continue to support our residents here in Cobb. Finally, going back to evictions, we've heard from a number of people here this evening. We've been hearing from a number of people via email, some via calls, about the very real and difficult circumstances that a number of people are experiencing here in Cobb with respect to evictions. It's very saddening to hear some of these cases, particularly being in a district that has so many families that do reach out to our office in need for some of the most desperate situations. It's very difficult to sit here and hear comments and not be able to discuss matters individually with people, to discuss things that have that are actively being addressed. And it's very difficult, to be frank, to address this in one of the nation's wealthiest counties. Cobb County is one of the top 100 highest income counties in the United States. And to hear these women come and speak, it's painful as someone who sees this to recognize that disparity and just the lack of full support that we have real people seeking from us, and knowing that even with so many organizations that we have, even with everyone whose heart is pricked, that the reality is that the web of support is not adequate to get out in front and sometimes prevent these circumstances or to immediately address them. And the societal and personal and economic issues that people have are complex and not always easy to address. But the reality is, despite all those challenges, that there are some organizations here in Cobb who've been helping prior to the pandemic, who have been helping during the pandemic, and will help after the pandemic. And I know that our communications team is working on putting out a list of resources. We've talked about some of them during this meeting, whether it comes to the Star C program, the Home Free program, which will address homeowners, and prayerfully our next meeting in September to address those residents that are falling in the gap. However, we do have some nonprofits which have received some funding still through our Community Development Block Grant program. We will be including those in our newsletter on Friday, and we just encourage those of you who are connected to the county to share these resources with others, because there's one woman who said she used to smile and say everything was okay and not really reveal things that are going on with her personally. There are a lot of people who are struggling. And it's very difficult to imagine families living in a car, going to school, and going to groceries among us, but they are here in one of the wealthiest counties in the state, within our nation. And as we receive matters, I know my assistant and we do our best to address them, but there are many more. So I just ask, as your heart is touched, as you feel compelled, as you are able, with the resources you have to please help where you can. I appreciate Magistrate Court doing what they can do as having to be a mediator between the tenant and the landlord. They have provided an FAQ on their webpage to educate people about evictions that are occurring. There's a website that's way at the bottom of this flyer, but if you just Google Cobb County Magistrate Court, you can get access to their evictions FAQ. We will include this information in our newsletter so that people can see it. While this is no solace to those going through the process who are looking for the relief of getting other housing, at least you're educated about the process. So again, please know the Magistrate Court is putting out information to make people aware so they can at least keep themselves from being caught off guard. Thank you, Chairman. Those are the conclusion of my comments.
Thank you, Commissioner Cupid. Commissioner Burrow.
Since our last meeting, we have had 7 more adoptions for our veterans at our Cobb County Animal Shelter. And this is Mr. Heath's son. They adopted the black lab you see here. So thank you, Mr. Heath, for your 5 years of service in the U.S. Army. Thank you, Mr. Heighton, for your 4 years of service in the U.S. Air Force. They adopted a handsome Dalmatian mix. And this is Mr. Talby. He served in the U.S. Army for 7 years. Thank you for your service, and thank you for giving Riker 2-year-old pit bull mix a forever home. Thank you to Mr. Cobb for adopting a 3-month-old kitten. Thank you for your 4 years of service in the U.S. Navy. Thank you to Mr. Crump for adopting Skittles. And thank you for your 8 years of service in the U.S. Army. Thank you to Mrs. Jakua Robinson for adopting Lacey, a 3-month-old boxer. Beautiful family there, too, with wearing their masks to take home their new forever pup. And she served 18 and a half years in the U.S. Army. And thank you to Mr. William Delameter for adopting this beautiful 2-year-old German Shepherd mix. And thank you for your 2 years of service in the U.S. Army. And if you notice, you probably can't see it, but his hat says Purple Heart recipient. So thank you for your service. So to date, we have 163 adoptions. And I'm proud to say that the Army is leading the way with 72, Air Force 33, Navy 33, and Marines 29. You got a lot of catching up to do, Chairman, with the Marines. If you'd adopt one, it would help. You're a Marine. So thank you to Superior Plumbing, Cobb County Animal Shelter, for making this program, Superior Pets for Patriotic Vets, possible. We're still in need of poll workers for the November election, so go to cobbelections.org and please sign up. And then also stay updated on events going on and DOT projects in the area by subscribing to my newsletter at cobbcounty.org/Burl. And that's all I have.
Thank you, Commissioner Burrow.
Thank you.
Commissioner Gamble.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Building a stronger community starts with helping those in need. All Roof Solutions would like to give back to one of many deserving local heroes by providing him or her with a free roof this Veterans Day. If we remember, they did this for the first time last year. To nominate a deserving veteran and or first responder, please provide a video or photo submission on behalf of your nominee with a brief explanation as to why you are choosing this local hero for the free roof giveaway. The contest entry has opened and will run through October 1st of 2020. Once the entry period has ended, they will open this for submissions to the public vote, that will determine the top candidates, and from there, the owners and veterans employed by All Roof Solutions Incorporated and All Restoration Solutions LLC will select the grand prize winner, which will be announced on November 11th, 2020. To enter, please visit allroofsolutions.com/2020 giveaway. One Humanity, One Community. Earlier this summer, Ackworth and Cobb community leaders scheduled a community discussion on June 10th entitled Conversations About Race, Prejudice, and Social Injustice. The mission was to listen, seek, understand, and become a part of the solution of healing. The conversation was well attended, and as we promised, the conversation will continue. On October 7th at 7:30, we invite minority business owners as well as potential business owners to learn about resources available from city and community leaders and to help improve their business journeys. Then on November 12th, Ackworth and the Cobb community leaders will host a minority business workshop with speakers from other business owners in our community, as well as KSU Minority Business Department to help and assist current businesses, as well as potential entrepreneurial startups with educational and financial resources for success. Again, the focus is to make sure we have an inclusive business community that offers the best resources to ensure everyone's success. And again, thank you to Ackworth City Mayor Tommy Allagood for this initiative. Our Cobb Home Saver Program. The Cobb Home Saver Program is now accepting applications at cobbhomesaver.org. Cobb homeowners who have fallen behind in their mortgage payments due to COVID-related involuntary financial hardship, medical hardship, or death of a spouse co-borrower will be eligible up to $4,800 of mortgage payment assistance, as well as optional home ownership counseling. This applications are currently being taken now. If you have questions, you can join us on August 31st at 7 p.m. for a webinar walking you through the steps of completing your application. To learn more about the webinar and the program, you can visit www.cobbhomesaver.org. And I'd like to report that as of this evening, we've had over 400 applications. 291 are in the process of being reviewed, and 8 have been fully vetted and are approved for funding. And the program opened last Monday. So again, thank you very much to Ernest Davis for bringing this program forward and starting to get resources back into our community. And with that, Brad, if we can show the video.
Hello, I'm Mike Boyce, Chairman of the Cobb County Board of Commissioners, and welcome to cobbhomesaver.org, a COVID relief program to assist the Cobb County homeowners who are struggling to pay their mortgage due to COVID-19 hardships. We know that mortgage issues have arisen for many as a result of this pandemic. And now, more than ever, we need to work together for the common good. As a response to those who have been devastated and are suffering financial hardship, we partnered with Home Free USA to assist Cobb homeowners in need. Depending on your circumstance, you could qualify for up to 3 months mortgage payment assistance and get free homeownership counseling to help you as a homeowner know and understand your rights and potentially help negotiate terms with your lender. Take some time to review the application criteria and the full list of requirements on this site to see if you're eligible. Then click the apply button to start your application. If you know someone in Cobb who needs mortgage assistance due to COVID-19, spread the word. But hurry, because grant funding is limited to a first come, first served basis. Again, this is not a loan. It's free to any Cobb County homeowner impacted by COVID-19 that gets approved through Home Free USA. But you must be a homeowner residing in Cobb to qualify, and you must apply from this site. This is a difficult time for us, and we're all working hard to respond. On behalf of all the commissioners of Cobb County, we're here for you, and please, stay safe. Thank you, Commissioner. I think I'd like to end tonight on a message of hope. I think every single person who watched the young lady who started out public comment tonight was moved by the dilemma, heartbreaking dilemma that she's in. it's just very difficult for me, as I came from a military background, and I had the capability to go out and do things unilaterally that I don't have as a chairman here. I have to work through the board and through our code to do this. And I know that sometimes you can't eat hope, but you still have to prepare the ingredients for someday when they can eat or they can be homed. Because I think it's important to realize is that this pandemic pushed people over the edge that every day live from day to day. And as much as we try to address all concerns, and when we're doing that, there are just some that sometimes we don't get to them fast enough. I think I found it remarkable that in this county of truly bountiful riches, that our poverty rate before the pandemic was somewhere between 15 and 20%. And it was that population that was most impacted by the pandemic, because the people within that population are the ones that were traditionally service workers, and they were the ones that suffered the immediate impact of the declaration of emergency because they didn't work in a job that was declared an essential services. So we had to find a way to get them through this time, and I think that we have to do all we can to show them that we hear them. We can't help them all, but that doesn't mean we're going to stop trying to do that. I'm very encouraged by the fact that we are, in fact, coming back in many areas. The Star C program that the board approved about 6 weeks ago has 166 apartment owners that are partnering with a Star C to help people with rental assistance. You heard Commissioner Gamble talk about the Home Saver program. Commissioner Cupid next month is going to be bringing a program, agenda item forward to capture those parts of the rental assistance program that Commissioner Ott's program agenda item with Star C didn't capture. But having said all that, I realize that we don't help everybody, and that is really frustrating to every one of us up here on this board. I think that we have to double down on our efforts to do all we can to work with our constitutional officers to see if we can't find some way to look at new ways of doing things to help that marginal part of our county that we haven't somehow been able to reach. We have to try harder. Why is that? Because we're called to that leadership position right now. And I know we can do it. I've seen what we've done. I know we can do it because we're Americans, but more, just as importantly and equally, we're Cobb County. We do things differently here because we have a partnership with the community, and we have to reach out to these people regardless of their circumstances, let them know that we hear you, and we're going to do everything we can to try and help you. And sometimes it's the attention to detail. It's the onesies and twosies that are just as important as the 40s and 50s. And I'm not sure what the solution to that is, but I know that I'm going to work every single day to see what I can help every single person that I see that either comes to us through email or comes to us at the board meeting, working with the commissioners here, working with our constitutional officers to get us through this time. Because there is hope. There is hope. We're in a much better place than we were 3 months ago. And next month, we're going to be better where we were this month. But we cannot get complacent. We can't rest on our laurels. We've got to keep working hard every single day. And I know I look forward to working with the board and leading with the board to do just that, to see all we can do to help this wonderful community that we call Cobb, this family that we call Cobb. There are our neighbors, there are our families, there are our friends, but all together, we're all in this together. And we're going to find a way to get through this together and come out this better than when we came into it. So with that, the last thing I want to say is, I'll end on a good note. You see on your screen here, we have the census response. I am really delighted to say that in spite of the pandemic, and this is a great example of Cobb County, we have exceeded our response rate from our last decennial? 10-year? Okay, thank you. Last 10-year census. And we have another 5 weeks to go. And my hat is off. Is Jason Gaines here tonight? If he's not, he should be. This young man has done extraordinary work to get out and touch the people in their, even though they're confined to homes and they're sheltering in place, he has found a way with his team to get them to come out and complete this survey. And we all know how important this survey is, particularly to this community that we kept talking about earlier here in the evening that need it the most. And so with 5 more weeks, Jason and his team, they're going to shatter the record from 10 years ago. And I'm really proud to say that he's another great example of the terrific staff we have here in Cobb County. So Jason, wherever you are tonight, get back to work. But thank you for all you're doing, and it's a significant achievement, and I know you're not going to stop there. I look forward next month at the end of September to saying that we've done something that nobody thought we could do, but I knew we could do it because we're Cobb County. So with that, we're adjourned.